Lucy from Florida, one word to describe the meter.
2 words, hard to decipher. 3 words.
Okay, thank you guys. So we're on live. This is being broadcast or streamed from the LA Times website. Let me explain how you guys got into this group, and then I'll tell you exactly how we did it. We maintain a list of hundreds of thousands of people nationwide that have indicated that they would be willing to participate in a survey or focus group. The participants you're seeing right now in front of you were chosen based on their answers to the following questions. Number one is they had to be registered to vote in one of the 12 swing states that could still support either candidate. Number two, they have to be possible Biden voters based on their filling out the questionnaire. Number three, they had to be self-described possible Trump voters. Again, this is what they told us. Number four, they have to define themselves as independents. They may still lean towards Republicans or Democrats, but they're not partisan voters. And number five, they have to consider themselves undecided in the presidential contest. The only way you got into this group is that you answered affirmatively to all 5 questions. And everyone here has been compensated $100 for their time, which, by the way, is more than I'm being paid. And if that seems like a short topic to me, it absolutely is. This is coming out of my pocket, so darn it. And then we sent them a note earlier this evening, and we told them.
We just lost you.
Oh my God, you lost me?
You're back.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
I hear you.
I heard you.
Okay.
Good. Yep.
Well, guys, don't scare me. I'm already under enough stress. Told them, and I quote, the presidential town hall events with Donald Trump and Joe Biden are happening on ABC and NBC simultaneously. Both start at 8 p.m. and both end at roughly 9 p.m. You can watch one or both of them. It's entirely up to you. We want you to watch exactly what you would have if we were not conducting a focus group. So that's kind of how we did it. This is why you see the people in front of you. To start, give me a word or phrase to describe the 2020 election. And actually, I'm going to call on you now. Let me bring you guys back in so I can see you, which I cannot. Word or phrase to describe, you guys still there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Word or phrase to describe the 2020 election. And John, I'm going to start with you.
Saddening.
Elizabeth.
Convoluted.
Brian.
Confusing.
Jimmy.
Chaos.
Alex.
Confusing.
Jill.
Frustrating.
Maureen.
Disappointing.
Travis.
Joke.
Donald.
Rushed.
Jeffrey.
Disjointed.
Keep going. Word or phrase to describe the 2020 election. Amanda.
Disheartening.
Alicia.
Stormy.
Eric.
Sad.
Bernard.
Disaster.
Nicholas. Oh, Nicholas, you're part of our LA Times group, not you. William. William. We still can't hear you, William. You're gonna have to figure that out. Lucy.
Disappointing.
Did you ever think it would get this way? Anybody? Could you have imagined a year ago that we would have this kind of reaction? Elizabeth from Pennsylvania, you're nodding your head no. Tell me about it.
So I think mostly because of coronavirus. So for me, and I understand that some people feel that it's beating a dead horse, but to me, we're in a pivotal moment in our nation. And for me, it comes down to every year election year, I would vote for the person who checked the boxes policy wise. And that's easy enough to do. You select the face of the candidate who checks the boxes. This year it's different because you have a public health crisis and you also have an economy that needs to be balanced with a public health crisis. And so you have to figure out how to balance that. And so I have a 1.5-year-old daughter with a pre-existing condition. I want the economy to do well. I want her to be safe. And so to balance those things, I need somebody that I can trust steering the ship. And I don't know if I have that in our current president.
Bernard, you're pretty negative about where things are. Same thing with Travis. Were you expecting this a year ago?
No, I think the coronavirus has taken many of the news cycles, and we haven't had a chance to really stand or to find out where the candidates are with their issues, where they're similar, where they are contrasting, and we haven't heard them on stumps or even some. We're not having the debates either, so it's all, we're expected to elect a president based on polished commercials that we see on TV or the internet.
Although that's why we had this town hall, and that's why you all watched it. Lucy or Amanda, your reaction to the state of the election and the state of American democracy right now?
I'll go. My reaction is it's really disappointing that at this point in my life, I am looking for somebody that is literally just trustworthy enough that I can feel confident that I can vote for them, and I'm not voting for a criminal or a liar. That is literally the point that we're at. And I never thought I would be this way. I mean, I always was very confident in the vote I casted. And starting with 2016, when Trump came on the scene, everything just seems to have shifted and shifted and shifted in a way that I feel like I'm in some sort of dystopian reality with politics. It's just so strange to me that this is where we're at.
Lucy, you agree with that?
To some degree. I feel like some people would say, you know, we elected Trump 4 years ago. I think what COVID has shown me about Trump, or what Trump has shown us about himself throughout the COVID situation, is I've seen him come unhinged on national TV more times than I'm comfortable with my president. I don't like the face that we're showing the rest of the world right now with the way we're handling and the way he gets unhinged. So I'm just so torn in direction of some things that he's doing that he has done well, but yet now what he's presented during this COVID time is very unsettling to me.
I'm gonna get a couple more reactions from you. Anybody? Jimmy, your reaction to our democratic process, our electoral process right now?
Totally embarrassed by what's going on. You know, we elected, when I say we, the people, a reality TV star who had no political experience, and it's coming back to bite us in the butt, so to speak. So, I mean, we're total embarrassment throughout the world right now.
I'll open it up to anybody. Can I get two of you? Travis, go ahead. And then
anybody who says that they didn't see this coming just wasn't watching the same show. You look at 2016, you know, the two most hated people in the United States running for president, and they had to pick one. And before that, it was, you know, the most milquetoast, you know, blase people. It just keeps getting progressively, you know, worse. It's easy to see. Nobody worthwhile wants to be, you know, president or a politician anymore. Nobody that
Who would do this to themselves? You're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no way I'd go out there.
I think that, you know, if you look at Trump, you know, he got elected in, and he had an agenda, and he had a bunch of people with him, and he ends up being kind of, you know, after these 4 years by himself. Like, all the people that he brought in have been swept out. He's by himself. And I think and through the, you know, with Biden, he's kind of got left by himself too. It was really, it wasn't like a dominating performance for him to be the person that gets a chance to be the president. So I think that it's a disappointment on both sides. And I didn't see anything presidential today. I didn't see any leadership. I didn't see any strong ideas and thoughts and, you know, concepts. I saw a lot of like bickering and a lot of drifting on things. Like, I want to see someone today be really strong and say, this is what we're going to do. And, you know, even, you know, I think Trump could have said things that he accomplished. And I also think he could have said things where he's made mistakes and said, listen, I messed up on this. I messed up on that. You know, if I get another chance. One thing he said in the last election cycle was, I can be very presidential. And of course, you know, human beings believe what people say a lot of times. Like, you want to kind of trust it, but I haven't seen that. And, I'm kind of sad about what's happening here. I really wish I could go to the booth and vote for someone that I felt like would really help us move forward. We have a great country. We have a great infrastructure, political infrastructure, and we're very fortunate. And I just don't see like we're going to be given the keys to anyone that's going to really take it and drive it forward.
Okay, guys, there are 16 of you, and we only have about an hour. So, Eric, what you just said is awesome. But I need you guys to get to the point a little bit more quickly because
Sure.
they may not, and we're going to ask you about the hosts and about what you saw tonight. But we only have so much time, and I want to get everyone in it. Jeffrey, Alicia, and then I'm going to ask you all to vote. But first, Jeffrey.
I was just going to say that it's just disappointing because on the one hand, you have a career politician who's done it for 40 plus years. And then on the other hand, you have someone who's done it for almost 4 years. And I want a happy medium and someone that acts like a leader.
Did you get that tonight?
No.
Oh, in a word, no. Okay, Alicia, you got the last word on this question.
Yeah, I just think that it's extremely sad that Trump takes no blame for anything. The pandemic is China. The stimulus is Nancy Pelosi. The taxes, the IRS hates him. I mean, he just doesn't take, he doesn't take ownership to anything, which makes it really sad. Coming from a great economy and to where we are today, and he takes no blame. It's saddening. It's very saddening.
He would get further with me if he did. If he accepted blame, he would get further with me. Like
Absolutely.
It's just an honesty thing. Yep.
Humility.
Absolutely.
100%.
Ask you a question. If Donald Trump at the beginning of the last debate stands up there and says, I owe my opponent, he's not my enemy, and he's not a competitor, he's simply an opponent, because we're both Americans. I owe him an apology for the first debate. And I need to acknowledge to the public that we haven't done what we wanted to do. We've done a fair amount, but we need to do more. If he did that, raise your hands if that would make you more likely to vote for him. Really.
And it will never happen. It will never, ever happen.
Nope. I can't even imagine it.
America loves a good redemption story. And if he were to become at all humble and own what his administration, has reaped what they've sowed, I would completely be more likely to at least listen to what he had to say.
And he had it handed to him on a silver platter when he got COVID. He had the golden opportunity. I was watching for it to be a pivotal moment of him to just have some humility and come out of that a little bit different. And there's nothing.
I agree.
You're absolutely correct.
Be more presidential, and he needs to be humble. But we saw tonight with the way Savannah Guthrie treated him, how antagonistic she was towards him, that's why he comes out how he does. I really believe that is a huge part of it. Other than the fact that I think that's just his demeanor, but the media does not help him at all.
I agree with that.
The story would not have been told.
She went
If
after
Trump-
him.
If Trump comes out and says, I apologize, we messed up, I did a few things wrong, that's going to be the headlines for the rest of the election cycle.
Exactly. That's
Trump
right.
messed up, he admitted he sucks, he shouldn't be in this position. Like, yes, everybody loves a good redemption story, but who's going to tell that story? Not this media, not with what I saw tonight.
Yeah. I mean, we all already said that the media is biased.
I think he has to convince the independents, the people that are like us that have to make a choice. That's his real target, because everyone else already is going to vote for who they're going to vote for. So he doesn't have to worry about anyone else. He has to worry about the people that he can convince over.
I think he only feels attacked or gets perceived to be attacked by media and Savannah this evening because he comes out that way. If he came out more humble, if he comes out on attack, and so your natural reaction. Yeah, no, I think she did as well, but I also feel like she was sort of representing all of us.
Okay.
It's just a vicious cycle either way.
Hold on. The problem with Zoom is that you can't talk over somebody. In real life, you can have two people at the same time. Zoom has not figured out that technology. Lucy, finish your thought, and then I'm going to ask you all to vote on one specific question. Lucy, go ahead, finish.
Okay, so my opinion is that because he is so abrasive and so confrontational all the time, that's how he comes to the table. So these reporters and moderators come prepared for that. I also felt like Savannah was kind of not letting him get away with stuff and acting the way I would have. She was asking the questions, holding his feet to the fire, which I appreciate.
Okay, here's the question, the big question. The American electoral process. Is this something you're proud of or something you're embarrassed about? I'll say it again. The American electoral process. Is it something you're proud of or something you're embarrassed about? Raise your hand if you're proud of it. Raise your hand if you're embarrassed about it. Okay, it's actually much more favorable than I was expecting. Okay, let's move on because we got a lot of stuff to cover and not that much time. Next, has the campaign and the stuff you've seen over the last couple of months, has it made you more optimistic or more worried about the future of America? Again, we're just doing general questions right now. We're going to get to the specifics in a moment. More optimistic or more pessimistic about the future of America? Anybody?
Pessimistic.
Yeah, pessimistic.
Pessimistic.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's do a vote on that
Certainly
one.
pessimistic.
Who says the campaign has made you more optimistic about the future of America? Raise your hands if you're more optimistic. Nobody. Okay. Who have I not heard from? Brian from Ohio. Why are you more pessimistic because of the campaign?
Well, I really want somebody that's going to bring kind of respect and honor back into this White House, and not, I don't want to look at my phone and just be, just embarrassed by what's going on. And until we get somebody that has a plan, and I think Biden showed that tonight a little bit more about how to get manufacturing back off the ground, because it's still on the mat right now, how to get jobs back in order. I think that will really help change my mind in the next 2 weeks.
Who have I also not heard from? Bernard. Why are you more pessimistic about the future because of this campaign? And Jimmy, you're going next.
The emphasis seems to be like solely on the response to the pandemic and what was done wrong. And I've heard a lot about following the science, and yet if you go back to February, March, that what they have said as science has changed on whether it's wearing masks and if it's going to get better or worse in the summer, and if we're at the end of the first wave or if we're in the second wave, because in Wisconsin, there have been a lot of more cases. And so it seems to be like the only issue that politicians want to discuss.
Okay, Jimmy, and then William, I'm coming to you in a moment. We're going to see if you figured out how to get sound. If you can hear me now, I hope that you're dialing in on your phone so you can use that to connect to us. Jimmy, go ahead.
Hey, Frank, the current administration hasn't accepted accountability with what's going on with the pandemic and all the information that they were provided with, and it's been nothing but lies, more lies, denial. So I don't want to hedge my bet with 4 more years of this administration because we still haven't figured this out yet. And it could have been solved because they had a game plan they were provided with when they took office. Just my opinion.
Okay, William, go ahead. William? We are talking to you, William. Okay, I guess that you didn't bother to use your phone. Alicia, you're up. And then Brian from Ohio.
Let's be clear here. I mean, I've heard on many occasions people are saying, "Oh, it's all about the pandemic." Well, yeah, it is about the pandemic. I mean, people are dying. People have lost loved ones. And if someone says, it's too much about the pandemic, I can guarantee you they haven't lost someone in this pandemic. So it's very personal to me, and it should stay on the front runner because 200 and something people did not have to die, in my opinion. So it's always going to be on the front line of every decision that I make this pandemic.
Okay, then I'm going to challenge you as I've done in the last 2 groups. Alicia, you don't sound like an undecided voter to me at all. Are you really? Honestly.
Let me, and I'm going to answer you as honest as I can. On one end, I have a pandemic. am I talking?
Yep.
On one end, I have a pandemic, which I'm terribly upset about. But on the other end, and as I have stated in the forum, I come from the past 4 years has been very great economically, financially, and the stock market. All of that has done greatness for me. I have lived a good life with it. To have gone from that to absolutely nothing, or not say nothing, but absolute to where I am today, it's heartbreaking. So, I have to look at the 4 years when things were great, and I have to look at the present situation right now. And that's where I come into what am I going to do? Can we get back there? I think we're at the bottom, so it's nowhere else for us to go but up.
So you could be voting for Donald Trump in November.
Can I ask you a question?
I don't know. And that's why tonight I listen strictly to Donald Trump, because I'm trying to understand his plan to move us forward. I'm still unclear about that. I understand Biden's plan, but I made a decision tonight.
Okay, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people saying that they're disappointed and embarrassed, and people are saying a lot of bad things about President Trump. So my question is, what's making this difficult for you? You must have equal concerns or similar concerns or some kind of concerns about Joe Biden as well. No one has expressed those yet, so I'm curious to hear that's out of the ledger, because otherwise it seems to me like this would be an easy choice for you.
Okay, write it down. We're going to go Travis, Amanda, Jill, Elizabeth. Travis, you go first.
I feel like Joe Biden is an empty suit, and you're just going to pour whatever, policies somebody else has into it, and he's going to go, oh, yeah, it's great, and move on. Whereas I think Trump has an idea of what he wants to do. He just doesn't know how to do it. So, that's really hard to decide between for me. Like, somebody with no plan, somebody with a bad plan.
And of Ohio.
So I grew up a lifelong Republican. My parents were Reagan Republicans, George W. Bush. It would be unthinkable for me to ever not vote Republican in my family. My husband, a liberal Democrat, and we own a small business, and we've totally switched sides. He says if we vote for Joe Biden, we are going to lose a lot of our personal wealth because of some of the policies that he would like to enact. And so that's a very personal decision. However, socially, we kind of differ on those issues. So it's just really difficult seeing both candidates and having to choose between your own livelihood and what direction you want the country to go.
Jill, and then Elizabeth.
I think we have to look at who Joe Biden is and the fact that it's very disappointing that the Democrats couldn't put forward a better candidate. I watched every single Democrat debate, and I saw him, I would say, waver. I still don't really even know where he stands on some issues, and that's disappointing to me, because you hear also that he is going to be the one who's going to turn the Democrat Party even more left and into socialism. So I want him just to come out and say whether these things are true or not. Is he going to be like a Bernie, or who is he? And then I'm not sure that he even really knows, and he's been in politics all these years. He should know by now who he is, right? And yet I think his time has come. Had he run 4 years ago, he very well may be president today. But they put up Hillary, and people disliked her so much. That's why we have Trump in office.
And then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Amanda said. So I'm a conservative. I'm a social conservative. I'm the policies, I'm just more of a conservative. And so for me, the struggle is, do I deny all of that, right? So in tonight's town hall, there was a question from a woman from Pennsylvania who was talking about one of her children, 8 or 10 years old, who is a transgender or is in that process. And that just rocks my world in a bad way. A real bad way. Like I sit there and I think, I don't think I can vote for that. And it's not that I don't think that, I believe everyone was created equal. I believe everyone needs to be treated with respect. Absolutely. But that is some territory there that I just don't agree with on a policy standpoint. And so that's where it is for me.
Elizabeth said really quick, we were chatting about that as the person was speaking, and it's like, we have little children. I'm not going to let my 6-year-old decide what she's going to have for dinner And so that's where Elizabeth was saying, in defense of Elizabeth, I don't want her to come across as being, as if she is saying hurtful words to the transgender child by any means. But I certainly get where she comes from in the fact that, you have children making decisions of what gender they want to be.
So I want to do this. Nick, I'm going to stay on this. I want a word or phrase. We're going to ask both because I need to do it in parallel. I can't just do one without doing the other. We'll stay with Joe Biden for one more second. I want a word or phrase to describe Joe Biden based on what you saw tonight. Based on what you saw tonight, give me a word or phrase to describe Joe Biden. John?
Unclear.
Elizabeth?
Boring.
Ryan?
He was actually more thorough.
Jimmy?
I say he's unstable, but he's willing to listen.
Alex?
More presidential, but not looking very healthy.
Jill?
Poised.
Maureen?
Slow.
Travis?
Rambling.
Donald?
Dodgy.
Jeffrey?
I was going to say rambling too.
Amanda?
Thoughtful.
Alicia?
Stable.
Eric?
Weak.
Bernard?
Prepackaged.
Lucy?
Not very sharp.
I hate to do this, but here we go. William?
Cross your fingers.
I wish I was better at reading lips.
You can't figure out how to make your computer work, can you? William, this is 2020. I hope William is not calling Amazon right now to get a new computer.
He's figuring out how to run for president.
Yes. Actually, I think he's more qualified than Joe Biden. Now we go in the other direction. I want a word or phrase to describe Donald Trump from tonight. Lucy, we're going to start with you.
Abrasive.
Bernard?
Defensive.
Eric?
Misguided.
Alicia?
Combative.
Amanda?
Repetitive.
Jeffrey?
Interesting.
Donald?
Frustrated.
Travis?
Aggressive.
Maureen?
Defensive and frustrating.
Jill?
Convicted.
Alex?
Harsh and abrasive.
Jimmy?
Abrasive.
Brian?
Appealing to his base.
Elizabeth?
Defensive.
And John?
Targeted.
What was your reaction? And we'll do more about Trump in a moment, but I want you to react to the two town halls because I'm watching them and they look pretty different to me. Did you find that this was a fair articulation of the two candidates? Were they treated the same way? Was one treated better than another? Which town hall gave you more information? Which candidate did better in that situation? Which moderator did you like? However you want to describe it. Let's talk about what you saw tonight. First question I have is, did you guys watch both? Did you only watch Trump or did you only watch Biden? How many of you watched both? Alicia, you only watched one of them.
I only watch one.
Only watch one, Frank.
Okay, anyone else only watch one? Okay, so Alex, which one did you watch?
Trump.
Why only Trump?
Well, because switching back and forth is just I can't do that. I can't just. I'm losing. That's where my ADD kicks in. I need to stay tuned to one message, and I can watch it later because I'm sure it's going to be recorded. But
And
I'm
what
pretty
was
much.
your reaction to Trump's performance tonight?
I thought he was very defensive. I didn't. It was Trump kind of. His performance is always the same. To me, I mean, his mannerism, the way he talks, it's this hand gesture, all of that. I mean, it's been like that. So I'm not really surprised by that, but I was hoping, I guess, to obviously to see how he feels, the whole thing about COVID, so some of the first questions about his health were kind of important, but then, I still felt when it quickly moved into other topics that he was just very, very defensive, never answering questions, in many cases, the way they're asked, giving just blanket statements. So, it's a very typical kind of political thing to do, but I thought that, I need to watch Biden again, how exactly he was handling the questions. But I felt that, and again, I need to really provide feedback based on this performance, but especially what happened last time. I felt it was, in a way, kind of similar, very aggressive, not something that just left kind of bad aftertaste.
Okay, that's a long explanation for watching only one of these. Alicia, you just watched Joe Biden, correct?
No, I just watched Trump.
You don't? Oh, okay. And so I concluded as I'm watching the chat room that the more that Trump spoke, the worse he got. For you, is that okay? I'm seeing a few heads nodding there. How many of you agree with that? That the more that he spoke, the more agitated you guys got. Okay. Why didn't you turn into Biden, Alicia?
Because at some point, you're sort of hoping that he could just come out of this stereotype of being so combative. I mean, to me, he was actually debating the moderator. It was like a debate, so it was like, what's going on here? And I think it sometimes, in most cases, for me, it gets in the way of him really getting out the message that he wants to get out there, because it seemed like he's so angry. So I was hoping, and I kind of stuck out through the end that he probably would relax a little bit and really get to showing his side, but it never happened. I mean, he stayed in that mode. He had one or two moments where he shined a little bit, but he went right back into that combative mode. And I'm me being an optimistic type of person. I was hoping, but I didn't get it.
And Jimmy, you also just saw one of them?
I watched Biden, Frank. I'm not a fan of sequels. I've seen Trump enough already.
So are you truly an undecided voter? Jimmy, are you truly an undecided voter?
Well, at this point, to be honest, I'm leaning towards Biden.
So how many of you did tonight, and by the way, Jill Colvin from the Associated Press, I'm going to bring you into the room if you are still watching, so you can ask a question. How many of you here, raise your hands if you moved either towards Biden or Trump? If you're not, basically, who's not undecided anymore? Travis, you're not?
No, I think I'm still.
Jeffrey, you're not? Anyone else? Okay, so Jimmy, what was the moment that you realized you're going to vote for Biden?
Well, I think it's a combination of things from the last debate and to what's been going on with the pandemic. I'm kind of like in the middle, but from what I've been seeing, I'm kind of willing to take my chances with Biden because I think he'll listen. I don't think he'll believe he's the smartest man in the room. He's willing to listen, even though he's unstable, and I'm willing to give people that. But I still think at the end of the day, he's willing to listen with his staff and, in the cabinet.
Okay, and Jill, come off because we want to be able to hear you and we want to be able to see you. Jeffrey, who did you move towards?
I moved towards Trump because I disagree with Jimmy in the sense that Biden being unstable isn't okay with me, and he couldn't give a definitive answer to any of the questions really. And I understand that he might be able to listen, but that worries me, like, who is he listening to?
And anyone else move? Jill, go ahead.
I think tonight made me more undecided, but I'll tell you what definitely moved me a little bit more towards Trump was this week in the hearings of Amy Coney Barrett. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get you off track, but that was more persuasive than tonight.
Okay, Travis, I think you moved towards Trump. Tell me why.
I tend to agree with more conservative policies, and he's actually said conservative things a little bit and doing more conservative things a little bit and kind of has more conservative people around him that I know Biden absolutely won't. So that's just I want, COVID to go away and all that would be great. But at the same time, I used to work in the firearms industry. I'd like that to stick around. And I know with Biden, that's going to be really hard. So it keeps pushing me further.
Okay, Jill, you got your people here. I want to turn it over to you to ask a question, but you got to unmute yourself. Do you want to do it?
I appreciate it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you so much. So what I wanted to ask you is, when do you expect to make your decision? Do you expect to kind of walk into the voting booth and kind of go with your gut as you sit there and you look at the names? Do you feel like you're getting close to a decision now? What else do you need to hear to kind of get you to that point of maybe not being happy with your final decision, but at least coming to a decision? Thank you.
Take that.
I think for me, it's going to be right down to the narrow point. I mean, I am watching and listening and making notes, and it's at the end of the day, it's all about who's in my best interest. And so right now I'm still in the note stage. I have not, I've got checks on both sides. So it's just gonna, I'm just gonna have to watch and listen carefully, because every day you're learning something different. Every day something different. Something new is for me at least. I'm hearing something different. So it's gonna be right. It's gonna be right down almost to that booth for me.
I'm almost waiting to be like shooken up. So traditionally, I've kind of identified myself as more towards the conservative lane. I'm just waiting to find a moment where I'm like shooken up and say, okay, hey, wake up. You got to fight for this cause. Or is it just a referendum on Trump?
I'm assuming they're going to give us coins to flip at the booth, right? No, it just, I hope so. I think this cycle, we have to wait until right at the last minute, because everybody's waiting for the October surprise. Holy smokes, all of 2020 has been a surprise. Like every week it's something new, and even just all the stuff that's happened this last month. We're a couple weeks away from the election, and we're about to possibly confirm a Supreme Court justice. Like nobody was expecting any of this stuff to happen.
And then Biden says tonight that he'll give his answer on the Supreme Court after the Republicans do whatever they're going to do. So why would I not want to wait even longer? I'm going to get the answer to that.
Yeah, Frank.
My vote counts the same today as it does 2 weeks from now. So why wouldn't I want to put that off until the last minute?
The Supreme Court answer is why I basically made my mind up tonight, because Biden still couldn't give an answer to that. I mean, not a real one, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, I think it's a sad state. Here we go again 4 years later, and it's pretty much what some folks, the lesser of two evils. I mean, it was like that 4 years ago with Hillary and Trump, and now here we go again. And it's a sad state of America. I mean, that this is the best that we have to choose from. And
why do we have primaries then? We did this 2 cycles in a row. Look at all the Republicans we had on the stage going into 2016.
And the Dems made the same mistake. The Dems made the same mistake with 20 plus people. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. The last couple of primaries. It blows my mind that we're where we're at.
Well, one thing I'm thinking about is if we put Biden in there and we have the Congress is probably going to be Democratic, what's going to happen? Because I think things balanced out pretty, things balanced out. It wasn't pretty, but they balanced out. And I was thinking about that question, Frank, and originally I was like, I'm still not decided, but I'm going to probably be going in to vote for Trump most likely, because I haven't heard anything from Biden that's really concrete and that makes me feel like he's going to lead and do something dramatically different. And I feel like, a lot of stuff that Trump promised, he did focus on, and today, I don't know if you folks noticed, when he was answering the questions, his eyes were clear, he was focused, he wasn't bumbling his words. He was saying great a little bit too much, like he always does, over promising, and But he was, he was focused and he was answering. And when I looked at Joe Biden, I swear to God, I'm thinking like, how am I supposed to answer this with all these people behind him telling him what they want him to do? I don't think he was really answering it himself. I mean, Trump, I think, really does answer questions truthfully. And even though he says it stupidly a lot and, it's disappointing. But I do think he's a little bit more in touch with what he wants to do as a leader. And I would be more inclined to vote for the incumbent than to vote someone in that I'm not sure what they're going to do, even after they've been in office for so long,
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just want to go back to Jill, to your question. For me, it's definitely going to be a last minute decision. And for me, as traditionally a conservative, part of that reason is to see what happens with the Supreme Court, to see if Amy gets in. I mean, the assumption is that she will. But for me, part of what that does as an undecided voter is it tells me that theoretically, since seems to be a conservative, that some of the things that I might be concerned about on a policy standpoint from a conservative point of view will be sort of taken care of, or that I feel like it will be in good hands in the highest court of the land. And so then that might give me more peace of mind to vote for Vice President Biden, who in my mind seems to be more of a humble guy willing to listen, even though I don't agree with him on policy, if that makes sense.
It does. I want to try, and Jill, I'm going to give you a shot at a follow-up, but I want to do it first. So I'm trying to listen to all of you as a group, and there's always exceptions to every conclusion. But I get the feeling that you guys think that Joe Biden's a better person, but you're a little bit closer to Donald Trump on the issues, and that's the dilemma. I see a bunch of heads nodding.
Yeah.
John, explain that.
I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I mean, it's like Biden's got the personality, the attributes that you like in a person that we as people are drawn to and toward, but Trump has got sort of the raw, I don't know what the word for it is, but it's like if you could flip flop and put Biden's personality on Trump, which you can't, you really might have something. But I don't know. It's a very, I don't know. It makes me scratch my head.
Jeffrey, then Brian, then Travis.
Yeah, it's kind of just like what John was saying. If you could put everything Trump was saying, but put it through Pence's mannerisms and personality, then I think he would win in a landslide. But because Trump is so off-putting, it's hard.
Yeah.
I thought tonight when he said, when Vice President Biden said, $15,000 to pay for your first-time home buyer, he's made a lot of promises. How are we going to deliver on that, and how is that going to take our economy in the right direction versus just continuing to blow out the debt?
One more want to comment on that? Travis? And then
I'm going to be the outlier. I don't care if somebody's a nice guy. I want good policies. John F. Kennedy was a terrible human being. Richard Nixon in 1960 was a good person, changed over 16 years. But I like John F. Kennedy's policies a lot better than I like Nixon's in 1960. I kind of like Trump's policies a lot better than Joe Biden going to give everybody $15,000. Just, hey, here's Uncle Joe with a big check for you.
Leadership.
So I want somebody that can actually have good policies, not, is a nice guy.
Amanda.
I just find myself in a real moral dilemma because I do agree that policy is very important, but some of the things that Trump has said and done is so abhorrent to me personally that it's extremely difficult for me to square that circle and say, that person gets my vote. I want that person as the leader of our land. And not only that, some of the people that he's surrounded himself with, there's been more indictments and things like that of his administration than any other administration in history. That tells me that there's something there that I cannot square with. It would be so easy for him to win my vote if he could just be a decent human being. It would be completely easy.
Amen.
I find myself just waiting, please just be a decent person and I'll vote for you. And I just can't find it.
Yeah.
Nick, that's your lead quote for your article. Please just be a decent person.
That's
If
a great
you
point.
write that, I'm going to take it from you. Jill, did you get your answer?
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I also just ask one more thing? Just by a show of hands, can you guys show me who voted for Trump in 16?
5, 6, 7.
It's about half. Okay, thank you guys very much.
Okay, Nick, do you want to do a follow-up here?
I know that the follow-up I had wanted to ask was what's more important, character or policy? Let's see if I have another one here. Well, I am curious to hear if there was any single thing that you guys heard tonight that changed you, or whether you felt it was just a repetition of arguments you've been hearing for weeks and weeks. You know, a little more detail, a little more filling in, or was there something new that jumped out at you?
Anybody?
Same
No,
old thing.
Yeah, I don't feel like there was any more detail. I mean, maybe if this had happened earlier in the week, we might have heard some new stuff, but, you know, with the court packing question, but we've already got the non-answer earlier in the week. We got the same non-answer tonight. So I don't know. This just seemed like the same clown show on repeat.
Maureen,
I learned something.
Maureen from Florida.
Yes, I just want to vote for Biden because I can't Trump and everything he says makes me sick. But Biden, I don't know who. I'm afraid that he's going to do what Bernie Sanders wants, or he's a socialist. I have no idea what he wants or what he will do. I don't know. I'm scared. I don't know. I can't get any answers. All they do on the TV is fight. They always fight with Trump. I'm sick of all of it, and it's very disheartening that I can't make that I can't get a decision. Make a decision.
Jeffrey and then Bernard.
Yeah, it was almost the non-answers that told me more than all of the answers today. Like the court packing, for instance. I mean, the fact that Biden still couldn't give us a concrete answer on that scares me more than who's giving him advice, because I don't want a president who wants to foundationally change the United States, and that would.
Yeah, I think the non-answers from Joe Biden are
scary,
kind of alarming, because we don't know what they're going to get if they get the Democrat Congress with them. You know, are they going to pack the court? Are they going to end the filibuster? And how much are taxes going to be raised? I mean, you know, I don't think we get a lot of straight policy answers from Joe Biden.
And it makes you ask questions. Why is he not being asked some of these harder questions, like the laptop thing? I mean, that's obviously what most people want to know, right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's just not being asked. And so by default, it makes you want to say, why was that not asked? Like, is there something they're hiding? Like, why not?
John, you stole my thunder there. Maybe not learning something new, but reinforcing my belief that we're not getting an accurate shake on all accounts by the media when they're questioning, you know, the president or the former vice president.
Okay.
Joe Biden could just say something simple like, court packing's not up to me, it's up to the Senate.
Yeah, you know, or just say no. Just say, I'm not answering. End of story. Instead of,
well, he doesn't even have to. He just go. It's up to the Senate. I'm just the president. I don't make that decision.
Okay, we've got.
Show that he actually knows something.
We've got 10 minutes to go. I want to know what your reaction is about the media. You saw 2 different styles, 2 different formats. Which format did you like better? Which one did you like worse? Tell me why, Elizabeth.
Okay, so the first thing, the adjective that I gave at the very beginning for media is bias. And a lot of times you hear that being used for one group or one particular, you know, network or whatever. Pew Research came out with insane numbers, I think just this past week, that show what perceptions are of the coronavirus based on which news network you watch, excuse me. And it's on all sides. I mean, it's like 97% view it one way, 3%, and then the complete flipped for other networks. And to me, that is just astounding, but you see it tonight. I mean, you see it just, it's 100% there. You can see exactly how it's handled. A few things. I think overall my preference was for Vice President Biden. I appreciated that George Stephanopoulos, like, they let him talk, even though at times I felt he was boring and he rambled through a lot of details that at some point I was trying to follow which direction he was going. He let him go. He did push him, even so slightly. He did push him a little bit when it came to the Supreme Court question, which I thought was good. So you can't say that there was an absence of pushing. And you just saw a lot of debate and sort of arguing back and forth for President Trump.
I want to ask you guys
Go ahead.
as a group. I want to ask you guys as a group, raise your hands. Who did a better job? I'm not saying who pushed harder. Which format did you prefer? The one led by Savannah Guthrie or the one led by George Stephanopoulos? Who preferred this Stephanopoulos approach? Raise your hands.
Only watch one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep your hands up. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wow, we even got a hand up from William, so you can hear us. Who preferred the Guthrie approach? One person. Okay, then explain it. Why did you prefer Stephanopoulos in that approach to Guthrie and her approach?
Disrespect.
Staging.
Keep going.
You know, it was a nice blue. It was calm. They were sitting, you know, in a relaxed position. They were kind of conversational. Whereas with Savannah Guthrie, they were faced oppositionally. There was a lot of red, heavy tones. Sweating. You know, turning him into Nixon again. A lot of yelling back and forth as opposed to, oh, okay, next question. So a lot of it comes down to the staging.
I think that Savannah interrupted the president a lot, and I think she was doing her own fact checking on the fly. And, you know, I can see, you know, I think George Stephanopoulos did a nice balance of pushing back a little bit, but the format, George was on one side and he was throwing the question out. And then it was between the vice president and the person asking the question. And I think that made a big difference. I think Savannah Guthrie, exactly what was just brought up, facing directly at Trump and kind of in his grill when he's trying to answer the question. And I think Trump looked like he was falling off the chair a little bit. But no, I really think that it was confrontational. It was really unfair, I think, the NBC one, in my mind.
Keep going. A couple more of you.
I mean, you want him to connect. You want to connect with your constituents in this atmosphere, and how that was presented, he had no chance to be able to do that.
No, it was like she wasn't asking the question, let him answer. If she wasn't getting the answer that she wanted, she kept pushing, and I don't know, the whole atmosphere, it was like they walked out onto the Wheel of Fortune set, you know, when they go down to Florida. So it's got like this whole like circus game show vibe.
Hollywood.
And yeah, like I was waiting for Trump to like get voted out of the town hall at the end of the night. I didn't know when the council was coming out. Like it was so awkward. Whereas like the ABC special, like it was relaxed. The whole setting looked presidential, you know. They had the blues. You could just throw the seal up there and you would have felt like this was an official, I don't know. It was like two completely different shows.
Two completely different. You're correct about the staging, but also the demeanor of the interviewer. Completely different. Savannah Guthrie was aggressive. It was as if she were debating Trump herself. Again, George just let him speak. And I wish that, but to be clear, and as a woman, we often get a little bit of difficulty over this. You know, it has nothing really to do with the fact that Savannah was a woman. She didn't come across as witchy or whatever because she's a woman. Her demeanor was just different, and she did not handle it well.
Yeah.
I think Savannah, she was tough. And I just can't imagine a soft moderator going in with Trump. He'll eat her alive, him or her alive. So I think she wanted him to stay focused to the question. And when he didn't like the question, he became combative towards her. So I think she did a great job. And I think, she didn't back off. She said, she asked the question, she wanted an answer, and he wanted to say what he wanted to say and take it in whatever direction he wanted to. So I don't think she did a bad job at all. And
I would
think
like to
that's the
see
kind of
George
moderator who lives
Stephanopoulos.
with Trump.
I would like to see George Stephanopoulos do that for Trump. That's what I felt. I just felt like it was.
That would never happen.
Trump will never give him a chance.
Wait, I didn't realize. I didn't realize town hall moderators were supposed to be tough. I thought they were supposed to.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's Joe Bob from Wisconsin
Ideally,
with
they're not supposed to be tough. But
Then why is she sitting there being tough? Then why is
John.
she sitting there being tough? She's supposed to ask.
She was with
Oh,
Joe
and
Biden,
here's Yvette from wherever to ask a question.
I'd like to ask you the folks a question. Does anyone think Donald Trump really supports white supremacy? I mean, that's a type of question he was getting.
Yes.
He didn't denounce it.
Yeah. Like
He also didn't denounce Bigfoot or aliens.
Yeah, she wanted to denounce Bigfoot tonight. He wouldn't do it. So I know it. Area 51, we're raiding it tomorrow because he didn't say there's no UFOs there.
Yeah, I mean, how many times does he have to denounce one thing? I mean,
yeah, there's some very fine people in Charlottesville. There's some very fine people in Charlottesville.
For American people to believe it. That's how many times he has to do it.
This is not the question. The question was the two hosts. The question is not denouncing UFOs. Jeffrey.
Well, yeah, I thought that George Stephanopoulos did a better job. And then you could see when Savannah let Trump talk to people in the audience more, like George Stephanopoulos was doing, then it felt better. It felt better for us to watch. And it felt more like the Biden setup. I would love to see the average speaking time per answer for like Biden versus Trump, because I feel like Biden got to talk a whole lot longer without being interrupted each time.
Lucy, by the way, you would not know this because you were watching the debate, but I tweeted that about an hour and a half ago, that very point that someone should check. Lucy, your reaction to the moderators tonight.
As I think I was the lone Savannah supporter, I appreciated her approach because I think any lesser demeanor would have been steamrolled. I feel like there are many times when I'm watching both of them that I'm yelling at the TV or I'm saying things, and I felt like she was speaking for me. A lot of the things that she was kind of calling him out on and holding his feet to the fire are things that I would have liked to say. So I appreciated that approach because I feel like that's the only effective way to deal with him in that setting. So I thought she did a great job.
Okay, we're almost done now. I want to know what is the most important issue for them to focus on. They've got one more direct encounter, and I want you to be specific and don't say I want answers. What is the issue that you've not heard an answer for that you want to hear? And you can choose whichever candidate you want that will have the biggest impact on your vote. What issue and which candidate? William, can you hear me? I'm sorry, William. It did not work. You're from Iowa, you should be from Florida. Lucy. It is what it is.
I think I would like a really, really solid answer and clarification on the middle class. What are you going to do about me and my tax situation? What is your plan for that what I feel like is the majority of people, in that middle class, just, making your way through, like, what is your plan for us?
And who do you want that answer from if you had to choose?
I think if I had to choose, I want to hear Joe Biden give me a straight answer on that.
Bernard, what's the specific issue and who do you want to hear it from?
I would like to hear from Joe Biden on what, not only the court packing to actually answer the question, but on whether it will also is going to involve getting rid of the filibuster and some answers about Hunter and his computer and some other things that
one issue. Bernard, one issue. What is the one issue?
Okay, the court to get a definite answer on that.
Eric, what's the one issue and which candidate do you want to hear it from?
Trump and how we're going to move forward on COVID.
Alicia, one issue and which candidate?
Trump, I want a precise health care plan.
Amanda, one issue and which candidate?
I want to hear from Joe Biden when all of this is over. What are you going to do to fix all of the debt that we've incurred? How are you going to save Social Security and Medicare? These are problems that are not going away.
Jeffrey.
I would ask if they wanted to get rid of the Electoral College, and I would ask Biden that.
Donald.
I want to answer on this court packing question. That's huge.
Travis.
Both candidates talk about foreign policy for more than 5 seconds.
Which one more than the other?
Biden.
Maureen.
Healthcare, Biden, the American Health Care Act doesn't work. It's too expensive.
Jill, what's the one issue that matters most to you and which candidate do you want to hear from?
I want to hear from Biden on issues of human trafficking.
More than anything else?
More than anything else. That's what I do for a living, is I fight against human trafficking. So yeah, I want to hear about that.
Alex.
It'll be Biden, and the question is, all of those, freebies. Where is he going to realistically get the money from, and does that mean we're going to be increasing national debt to the even more further astronomical levels?
John.
I would say fixing the division. I think the division is what causes a lot of the other contentious issues and fights, and I guess that would go to Biden.
Elizabeth.
From Biden, I want to know answer to the Supreme Court question and any other fundamental changes that he's thinking are necessary.
Brian, and then Jimmy.
Sure. Like Amanda, from Biden, just how he's going to pay for everything and make sure we don't have a debt crisis in 4 or 8 years.
And Jimmy.
COVID, Trump, elephant in the room.
Okay, Nick, I'm going to give you the last question.
Has there ever been an election like this one in the past where you have felt this close to election day, like you really couldn't make a decision between the candidates? Is this something brand new, or do you often feel this way?
Second time, last one.
The worst one since the last one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So you
this
feel the
has only
system is-
happened the last time and this time.
So is something getting worse in the country? Every 4 years, we're moving backwards.
Same
downwards?
thing.
We're not moving backwards, we're moving to two sides.
Yeah, I think it's because of
so
social
partisan.
media.
Yes.
The two-party system is not working for our country right now.
So Nick, I don't think that
get any.
I mean, yes, there are unique things with COVID, but I swear, even when it was McCain versus Obama, they were still, or Romney, they were still pushing a lot of the racial divide back then, calling those gentlemen racist. And I don't believe that was accurate for either of those two. So I think people are just identifying more and seeing the whole picture, and it's kind of driven us to left and right.
Yeah, I really think that it's just people in their own silos on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, only hearing from people that agree with them, which is why I like stuff like this so much.
I mean, I remember George W. Bush being called a racist by Al Gore, or implied that George W. Bush was a racist by Al Gore, and 20 years ago.
I think the combination of Donald Trump and social media has unearthed something really troubling and disturbing in our culture in almost every way. And it seems to be just exacerbated with every day that goes by, and it gets worse and worse.
Nick, you really hit it on the head when you said between character and policy. That is 110% where I am. And I felt that way 4 years ago, but I had a third party candidate that I could vote for and feel like I had an out, kind of. I don't know. I still didn't feel great about it, but it's character. It comes down to character and policy. And I don't feel that I've had to make that decision before.
Thanks. Okay. And my last question The economy in some polls is the #1 issue, or at least it's tied with COVID. When you look at the two candidates and what they've said on the economy, is there anything that makes you particularly optimistic or anything that agitates you based on what you saw tonight and what you've seen in the last couple of weeks? Economy. Elizabeth, go ahead.
The final statement, Trump had an opportunity to speak to undecided voters. He specifically mentioned the economy. And what he says over and over again is it's going to be great. It's going to be better than ever. We're going to get right back to where we are. And there is zero substance to back it up. There is zero detailed plan of how that's going to happen. And that makes me cringe. I'm a girl for big dreams, 110%, but you got to have a plan to do it.
Travis from Arizona on the economy.
So I think the economy and COVID and the election are all kind of tied together. Like movie theaters are open here in Arizona, especially where I'm at. I'm not going to a movie because I don't want to be sitting next to somebody, even more now. So I think the economy is going to take a long time to recover, and I don't think it can be all pinned on one person. Like, there's not just one person in charge of this. There's 50 governors, there's a whole government, all kinds of systems. So,
Exactly.
It's his you fix the economy. Like, dude, it's going to take all of us.
Donald.
We need to recognize that.
Donald.
My thing with the economy is I'm gonna, the devil, the economy was great before this pandemic hit the fan. So if I'm going just based on the economy, I'm just gonna go with the guy that already, I don't need him to detail a plan because he already did it. I was living it. I got more money in my paycheck. I've got more job opportunities. So I'm not gonna go with the unknown. If I'm voting just on economics, just get me back to where we were before the world ended.
Jimmy, if it's just about the economy, is there either candidate that stands out to you?
We were doing well, I'll say that. But to answer that, we need a plan, and neither one has really came out with a detailed plan as far as fixing the economy. So I'm still in limbo.
I don't think if you're Donald Trump, you get to brag about the jobs that were created in the last month or two. They're not new jobs. Those are people getting back to the jobs they lost when the COVID started. So I resent that. So just, his track record was good prior to that. I'm just not sure what Biden's plan is for the economy.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I mean, economically, I would definitely, without hesitation, go for Trump because Biden and his tax plan just scared the bejesus out of me as a financial advisor.
Eric, if you just focus on the economy.
Well, the thing I'm worried about is we spent a lot of money to come out of COVID, and I think we're going to have to spend a lot more to come out of it. And I think everyone here feels like I do, which is the economy is not going to recover quickly. So we need to have someone that can be conservative and fuel the recovery directly, not spend a tremendous amount of money on other things like $15,000 for houses and this and that. I just don't think we're there. We're way far away from that. I think we just need to get out of this COVID issue and try to get back to where we were. So, I think that Trump gives me more confidence to do that.
Brian, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, no, so I think he, the thing that worries me about the economy and with Biden is I've seen some of the Obama era policies, back, 6-8 years ago where he incentivized people to do things and then revoked those, policies after 2 years, and it left tons of people holding the bag and not have sustained success. So I'd like to keep doing what we were doing, the first 3 years of Trump versus, some of those Obama era where we were honestly hurting, going into the Trump presidency.
Amanda.
I was just reading an article about how our economic recovery right now looks like a K, where there are some businesses thriving and people doing really good, and then others falling off. And I think it's reflective of our social makeup right now, where you have the haves and the have-nots and the people that are more divergent and disagree. And I worry that with the economy going forward, as we recover, you're going to have people, for example, like our business is doing really well. And then you have people that haven't had a job since March. And I think it's just going to become more and more divisive as we keep going. That's my fear.
Alicia, you're going to have the last word. Just focus on the economy from what everyone's been saying. What matters most to you?
You know, I have to give Donald Trump hands up on economy. I mean, we've had a great before the pandemic, we had a great economy. However, I think we're at rock bottom. Whether we have Trump or Biden, there's no place to go but up. So I think they'll both bring us a recovering economy. But I think Trump hands down did a great job with 4 years of a great economy. I lived it.
So on that note, Nick, you and I are going to chat for a couple seconds. I want you all to hear, because you can challenge us at any time if you don't agree with the conclusions. Nick, I'm going to interview you. What was your reaction to tonight in terms of our focus?
Well, yeah, I mean, unlike you, I don't do this all the time. So this was new to me. What I heard was enormous frustration with both of the candidates and enormous frustration with the system that gave us those candidates. I was interested in how often people said they were embarrassed or disappointed or thought the system was a joke, or they were disheartened by the electoral system. And when you cut through it, it sounds like what people are saying is they can't stand Trump's personality, but they kind of feel more comfortable with his policies. They like his economic policies, but they think he's unhinged. And as you stopped me on that quote from someone who said he could have my vote in a second if he were a decent person, but no one seems to think he is. So that's what I heard.
Jeffrey, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I hear from newspapers and TV a lot that Trump is unhinged, and it's kind of so common now that it just goes right over my head. It's like, okay, I mean, I hear that from you guys all day, every single day, every article I've ever read.
I only brought it up because I heard it several times from the group.
Yeah, I mean, nobody likes his personality, but I don't think anybody thinks that he's a psycho.
Oh,
I mean, maybe.
Sure about that.
The undecided voter thinks the president's a psycho.
Jimmy, is the president a psycho?
100% narcissistic.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I didn't say he wasn't a narcissist.
I know a politician that isn't a narcissist.
Well, his sister just said a few weeks ago, didn't she say on the phone call he has some kind of mental psychotic issues?
Alex, if you're not looking at your computer, if you're looking off at your
Sorry. I was saying that his sister said something about him not being very mentally stable, if I remember right. So.
I don't get a list of all the mean things Donald Trump said in my paycheck every week. So that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Nick, there are a lot of reporters who are now very critical of the people who are sitting beside you on the screen. That's the common refrain that I've gotten in the last week is, how dare these people still be undecided? After you listen to them, what's your reaction to the idea that they shouldn't matter so much, we shouldn't pay so much attention to them, that just because they won't make up their minds doesn't mean that they deserve any special coverage? Your reaction?
Well, I will say that going into this, I had a gut feeling of, oh my goodness, who are the people who, at the end of an election like this, such a bitterly fought election where it seems to me the candidates are polar opposites, represent such different things. Who are the people who could possibly still not have made up their mind? After all, I made up my mind about 4 years ago, and I haven't wavered from it. So I admit I came into it wondering, are these going to be people who really don't know much about the election? But I think people made a very cogent case for why they are up in the air. And as always, when you listen to focus groups, you find that American voters are thinking about things harder than you thought they were, or harder than I thought they were. So I found that interesting and edifying. What I don't know is and maybe Frank, you can answer this question for me. I look at the polls with 19 days to go. I look at the polls, and in the national polls, Biden is up 9 or 10 points in the battleground states. He's up, 5 or 6 or 7 points. Can things really turn around at this point? What would have to happen for that to shift with so few weeks to go?
So my guess, that's the question that everybody asks, and my initial guess is that it's too late, that he needed today to debate, not to have these competing town halls, but to actually go side by side with the president, responding to real voters, not just journalists. And the fact that he gave that up makes it just impossible for him to catch up. I don't see that there's enough voters that are still like our people in front of us, that many more of them have done what Jeffrey did, have done what Jimmy did, which is finally make up their minds. I don't see there's enough movable people anymore. And Biden seems to have a lead that is so significant that one more debate won't do it. We know the ads won't do it. We know the speeches won't do it. We know the town halls won't do it because you don't get to see them for an hour or 90 minutes. If I were Donald Trump, see, the problem is if I were Donald Trump, I'd want to be on every program for 90 minutes to put forward my point of view. But I see from this group that the more that he talks, the worse it gets.
That's right.
I think he just has to say, I'm sorry. I really do. I think he has to say, I made mistakes and I got to change.
He just needs to remind people, and Joe Biden actually reminded people like a couple of days ago. There was a poll Pew poll where 56% of people said they're better off today, putting COVID aside, than they were 4 years ago. And then Joe Biden goes, well, those 56% of people shouldn't vote for me then. Like that's a terrible campaign argument. That's terrible messaging.
He said that a few times too now.
Yeah, like stop telling people to not vote for you, or stop telling people they shouldn't vote for you, dude. That's
statistically eliminate yourself.
Nick, I
have
a quick question for you, Nick. Do you think that one of the reasons why so many of us think that the media is biased is because you did decide 4 years ago?
Well, I'm not a news reporter. I work on the editorial pages. I write a column. I'm expected to be biased. What you are looking for is straight, fair, objective reporting in our news pages. And I know that people are frustrated by that. I understand that people feel that the media doesn't give a fair shake to Donald Trump. I understand that when you look at the town halls tonight, you see Trump being asked a bunch of aggressive, hostile questions, and Joe Biden hearing much calmer questions from a former Democratic political operative. So, I get it. I understand it. But no, I'm not supposed to be unbiased. I'm a columnist with a clear opinion.
So let me ask that opinion, and I'll take your questions, both Jill and Travis. But Nick, you saw that there was a difference. The ABC interview went right to questions from the audience, and George merely directed and sometimes attempted to get a clearer answer. Savannah Guthrie did not go to the audience for 20 minutes. That's hardly a town hall session.
Yep.
Do you feel, Nick Goldberg, editorial page, LA Times, did you feel that the way she handled her interview with Donald Trump was in any way inappropriate for a town hall that they advertised as a town hall?
I honestly believe every time the president gets up and agrees to an interview, the journalists ought to be tough on him and they ought to hold his feet to the fire and they ought to ask him the questions that he's been ducking. And if they feel that's about white supremacy or about QAnon, whatever it is, I think that's totally appropriate. And I don't mind if they want to do a half and half town hall, half her questions. But I do believe that Joe Biden ought to be held to the same standards. I don't think that the media ought to,
Was he tonight? Was Joe Biden held to the same standard that Donald Trump was?
Like everyone else in America, I was unable to watch both of them fully, but from the parts I saw, it looked like Samantha Guthrie was much more aggressive than George Stephanopoulos.
Okay.
You're not so bad for a member of the media, Nick.
Yeah,
You're not so bad.
No, none of us are bad.
I know. I'm just kidding.
He fixed my description fair.
Travis, you're going to have the last question because we're going to cut off in about 2 minutes.
I'll make my question super short so Jill can ask hers. Nick, is there such a thing as an objective journalist?
Okay, before I answer the question, I want to know, how did this become an interview of me? I'm the journalist here. I'm supposed to be interviewing
Because
you
the guy
guys.
paying me said that I could ask you a question.
You know, I'm a really strong believer that the American system of journalism, in which news reporters who write the news stories that go in the news sections of the paper are supposed to put their biases aside and report the news as fairly as they can, talking to all sides so that people who read our stories can reach their own conclusions. I think it's really important. I think it is a system that is flawed. It never works perfectly, but when we're doing our best, it works pretty well. I think the Trump years have thrown that all into chaos because Trump is a president unlike any other president, and we've had to figure out new ways to cover him and to challenge him when he says things that aren't true, because as you guys are all perfectly aware, he says things that aren't true all the time. So we've had to come up with new ways, and it's difficult finding the right balance, I think. And I've seen newspapers fail and do things that are unfair to Trump, but I've also seen a lot of great reporting out there. I don't watch a lot of TV news. I read mostly the big newspapers in this country, the LA Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal, and I think we do a lot of good work.
You didn't answer my question, but great job.
I'm like a politician. I never answer the question.
Nick, I'm going to give you the last question of me or of them. So you're going to conclude this. Go ahead.
I guess my last question, let's see. Well, what are the chances, this is a follow-up to my previous question, but what are the chances that something big could happen? Is it possible that there could be a vaccine? Is it possible that there could be Hunter Biden allegations that turn everything around? Is it possible, are there October surprises that could materialize with only 19 days to go?
The president.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm going to disagree with that. The president getting, and I'm going to take this to end this. The president getting COVID is an October surprise and ending up in Walter Reed. The president canceling the second debate is an October surprise. What else happened in the last 10 days, 12 days? There's a third one that I'm forgetting right now.
Hunter Biden's laptop.
Hunter Biden?
No, there's a third Trump one. But it's how much more can we take? How much more? It just feels so overwhelming. The number one
the vaccine getting delayed.
$750 in taxes.
Oh, there you go.
Is it meant to be overwhelming?
Yes, good point.
I never thought that it would be so exhausting. I've been doing this now since 1980. I've been getting paid for this since 1988. Although, I want to emphasize, I was not paid for tonight. So the only thing that William and I have in common is that neither of us were paid for this evening. What's really fun is that I could actually give William a hard time and he can't say anything back to me because we can't hear him. So I don't think that I really don't see that anything's going to change this other than the last head-to-head 1 week from now. And I do not, if Trump behaves the way a week from now that he behaved in the first debate, he'll go even further behind. He lost that first debate, as your LA Times group showed us. Jimmy,
hey, Frank, no James Comey moment in the ninth inning, like last election?
No, Trump tried to do that with Hillary's emails, and Barr just said no. So I don't expect that to happen, and I don't think the polling is as wrong. And frankly, the polling was not wrong back in 2016. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win by 2.8%. She won by 2.1%. The states
but it's not a national election.
The distributions, but I don't see it. I just don't see it. So Nick, you happy with the group?
Very. Thank you all. It was a pleasure to listen.
Guys, thank you very much. There may
Thank
be a
you.
couple of
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Night, folks.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks.